She should be popping up.
Okay. It is of the hour, so 7 p.m. Monday, January 4th, 2021. I'm going to call to order the Cascade Charter Township Planning Commission meeting, another virtual meeting. And at this time, I'd like to record the attendance that all members are present except member Secretary Katzma, who is excused this evening. And with that, we'll go to Article 2, which is Pledge Allegiance of the Flag.
I pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
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 of the
of the
United States of America,
and to the
and to the
republic
republic
for
which it
for
stands,
which it
one
stands,
nation,
one nation,
under
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Okay, and with that, we will go to Article 3, which is to approve the current agenda.
Member Johnson moves approval.
Support.
Thank you, Member Johnson. Thank you for the support, Member Moxley. All those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, moving along, we will go to Article 4, which is to approve the minutes of the December 21st, 2020 Planning Commission meeting.
I so move.
Support.
Member Slater and Member Deering for the motion to approve the minutes. All those in favor of approval of those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. And we will move on to Article 5. At this time, we will acknowledge any visitors in the audience who wish to speak on a non-agenda item, or in this case, if you have a comment regarding our agenda items, I entertain that too. You have 5 minutes. State your name and address. Raise your hand electronically at this time, and Cassie will connect you. Or if you're on a telephone, I believe it's *9 connects you or raises your hand. And we'll see if we have any takers here. We'll just take a brief pause and see if anybody has their hand up.
We do have 4 attendees, but there are no hands up at this time.
Okay. We're going to move on to Article 7, or I'm sorry, Article 6, which is Greencastle Properties. And this is regarding a car dealership on 28th Street. And we'll let staff take over from there.
Great, thank you. Cassie, can you, oh, there we go. We get the site plan up there. You've seen this before here. The applicant is requesting a preliminary plan approval to amend PUD 67, which currently includes the existing Porsche Audi dealership and Subaru dealership, to allow for the construction of a new Subaru dealership as seen on the plans here. We last saw this application on December 7, where we had a public hearing was held for it, but then any decision on the application was tabled until the applicant submitted additional information. And we've now received that information, so it's back in front of you. The applicant's proposing an approximately 37,800 square foot building with 367 parking spaces, 44 of which are designated for customer parking. The plan allows for cross access to all neighboring parcels there. The applicant has submitted a revised site plan that incorporates the road commission's comments to line up the eastern driveway across 28th Street from Lucerne Drive. So you see on the site plan, they have that there now. They're still waiting on final approval from the road commission, but if there are any other changes that would be requested, they should only be kind of minor ones along 28th Street. So we just have a condition that notes that they'll have to follow any other additional comments from the road commission. The township engineers reviewed and approved the plan, and so has the drain commissioner. There are a few permits from other agencies that the applicant will need to obtain before construction, which are addressed in the engineer's letter. And the applicant will need to provide a stormwater maintenance agreement, which is standard with new developments. We have received their new required survey as requested, which combines all 3 parcels along 28th Street, as well as 6120 Charlevoix Woods Court to make the whole project one parcel there. And so that lot combination is currently being processed. A revised photometric plan was submitted that shows all illumination levels below 5-foot candles as required by our ordinance. However, that plan was based off the old site plan, before the eastern driveway was moved to where it is now. So we're asking for a revised photometric plan to be submitted that reflects this new current site plan. That should only require very minor changes, moving a couple street lights. So that's another condition that we'll have listed. The site plan includes a robust landscaping plan along the perimeter of the site, as well as landscape islands. So we're requesting that $27,000 landscape bond be provided, as well as one other condition there. So if you are to approve the preliminary plan, then we would draft a PUD amendment that would come before you again for a recommendation to the Township Board, who would then hold a public hearing before acting on it. So with all that, it's staff's recommendation to approve the preliminary plan with the 6 conditions that are listed in the staff report.
Question.
Yes, Member.
Yeah, Brian, the parking lot on the north side, is that existing?
That's in that 6120 Charlevoix Woods Course. They did that a year or 2 ago, and that's kind of going to be added onto this site then.
So it'll be part of PUD 67?
It will, yep.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff at this time? All right, hearing none. Do we have any comments from the applicant? Do they wish to add anything? If so, you could raise your hand electronically and Cassie will connect you. And if you don't have any comments, that's okay.
Mr. Colin Scheffler has his hand up.
Excellent.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Colin Scheffler with DP Fox. I don't necessarily have any other comments. Just want to let you know I was here, and yeah, Brian did a nice recap. So unless there's any other questions from me, I appreciate your time and let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of the applicant? No? Okay. Any discussion or other questions of staff at this time?
One question.
Yes, Member Moxley.
The detention water, the water that comes off all these parking areas, that's underground?
That is, yep. It's
That
in
is.
the kind of northwest section of the parking lot, but that is all underground detention.
Okay, that's good.
I also noticed that with the alignment of that East Drive, I was concerned that would pose a hardship for them. It looks like they worked that in there better. Or I shouldn't say better. They worked it in there to appease the road commission. So it doesn't line up with the doors the way it used to, but it works. So I think they made a good change there. Hopefully. So
I was concerned about that also, and it did work out very well.
it did, because the way they had it laid out before was pretty nice. And I think that was a little bit of a hardship they had to take on that one, but it works out. So any other discussion from the planning commission on this? Not hearing any. I would entertain some action here. And I would ask that if anybody makes a motion on this one, that they make it clear if they are including any of the staff recommendations, because there is a list of several there. So as Brian just pointed out, so we need to make sure that we're clear as to if we are going to include those this evening or not.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, Member Moxley.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the plan as presented, that include the following staff recommendations: that the applicant complies with the township engineer's letter dated December 28, 2020, and all necessary permits are obtained before construction begins, that we record the stormwater maintenance agreement, that they submitted a landscape bond of $27,000. The applicant complies with any additional comments received from Kent County Road Commission once that report comes in, and submit a revised photometric plan that incorporates the most recent site plan to make sure there's no light problems, and the lot combination is completed.
I'll support that.
Thank you, Member Nordick, for the support. Thank you, Member Moxley, for the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none. At this time, all members in favor of the said motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to Article 7, election of officers. So it is of that time again, where we do an election of officers. Usually Steve kind of takes over here. So I would like to just add one thing. Member Katzma is not here this evening, but he did communicate with me that he would be willing to serve again as secretary. And so I just wanted to put that out and make it known on his behalf.
Yeah, Scott, if I may, maybe just a couple things for the group to remember. So the officers can serve for 2 one-year terms. So Scott is the chair, Phil is the vice chair, as you mentioned. Brett is the secretary. All of those have served for only 1 term, so they're all eligible to be reelected if you so choose. Really, the only person who can't be an officer is Sue. As a township board member, she is not eligible to be an officer. So you're really, you're free to do kind of whatever you wish, but you certainly may reelect the existing officers if you want. And then I didn't want to forget them. We also have the 2 committee assignments that we need to do after that.
Right. Okay, well, should we do let's do these, I guess,
Hey, Scott.
because how we've done it in the past, we'll do the officers first and then do each of the committee assignments after that. Is that
Yep.
fair?
Yep.
Okay. Any discussion about election of officers or action there?
Hey, Scott, did Brett
Yes.
indicate that he is willing to serve or that he wants to serve? To me, they can be mutually exclusive or inclusive.
Well, it's a little hard to read that tone in an email, so
Okay, all right. I didn't know if it was a conversation or.
I could try to look and reread the email because
Yeah, no, that's.
maybe I
fine.
didn't hear it right, but he
Yeah.
says, still good with my current position. I think we have a good team and would be comfortable with really anyone in any position, assuming you remain chair. You have done a good job and would vote for you to continue presiding as chair. That was his term. And I just said to him, I said, since you're not going to be there tonight, we're going to do an election of officers. Are you comfortable continuing as secretary? That was my question to him. And then I just read his reply. So that was the conversation. In full disclosure.
Okay, I nominate Scott for chair.
Support.
Thank you, Stu. Thank you, Member Evans. Do we want to do these as a group or individually? I guess, well,
You're the boss.
let me ask this. Is there anyone that, okay, what is the opinion for vice chair and secretary? Because we could do all 3. We could just have a motion to retain those positions as they are, if that's how you guys wish to do that.
I'm comfortable if everybody is willing to stay in the position supporting the same officers. I think last year was a very unique year and everybody did very well. So I think carrying forward with that sounds good to me.
I
I
support
concur.
that.
Okay.
Sure.
I support that.
All right.
So do I
you
need
want-
to restate my motion?
Perfect. Let's do that.
I make a motion that we keep Scott as chair, Phil as vice chair, and Brett as secretary.
I will still support
you.
that.
Thank you, Member Rabin, for the support. All those in favor of keeping the current slate of officers for 1 more term, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, I believe, is the appointment of to the ZBA from the Planning Commission, which I've always had my eye on, but I think currently is Member Moxley is that person, and I haven't heard any I haven't gotten any hate mail from the ZBA, so you must be doing a good job. So not that they
Glad to
would
hear
let
that.
me know anyway, but Does anybody want to challenge Ralph for this spot, or should we hear a motion or discussion otherwise?
I'll move Member Moxley remain as our representative to the ZBA.
Support.
Thank you, Member Johnson, for the motion and for the support, Member Deering. All those in favor of Member Moxley returning to the ZBA for another year, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you. You're doing a good job. And then I believe the other one is it the village board review? That I don't know. It's
yeah.
had a meeting.
It's the Village Design Review Committee. Lisa is our representative. They have met before. They haven't met in a while. I describe it as a group. It's basically a relief valve. So we designed a system. If somebody proposed something down in the village that didn't meet the exact specifics of what's in our zoning ordinance, they can go there with an alternative design rather than having to go to the strict scrutiny of the Zoning Board of Appeals. So you're right, they don't meet a lot. They have met, maybe we've had this group for maybe 8 years. We've probably met 6 times.
Okay.
So Lisa is our rep right now. They meet as needed.
I haven't been on the planning commission that long, but in the time I have been, I don't know that they've had a meeting. So, okay. Lisa, are you comfortable with remaining in that position? Or do you have
I'm
a desire
happy to be here if they need me.
that the time commitment hasn't been too much for you?
No, I'm still available.
Okay. Does anybody really have a burning desire to take that position away from Lisa? Or can we have a motion to allow Member Creeder to continue to serve there?
I would move to allow Member Creeder to serve in the current role.
Thank you, Member Rappin. Do we have support?
Support.
Thank you, Member Johnson, for the support. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And I think that sums up the positions. Am I correct, Steve?
Yep.
I'm getting good at this. Okay. Then we move on to Article 8, which is the 2020 annual report, which is always an interesting read. And just kind of a recap. So Steve, what would you like to say about that report?
Yeah, you're right. We don't usually spend a lot of time going over it. I'll certainly answer any questions if you have any. You're right, it has been an interesting year. One thing I do want to point out at the end of the report is the, I guess what we would describe as the annual work plan. If you remember, the way we did that last year is we had instead of 3 or 4 items like we normally did in the past, we had a very lengthy list of ongoing items from the master plan that we had approved in late 19. And we were kind of going to keep that as a running list so we could kind of see how we're doing. So I tried to put that in there as well, gave you some items that we've accomplished, some that are ongoing, and obviously a lot of them that are yet to be done. So that is in the annual report. Yeah, there it is. Thank you, Cassie. That's in the annual report as well. So yeah, unless you have questions, I'm happy to go through anything, but I guess didn't have a presentation for the annual report or the work plan.
Oh, I would just comment that I liked reading about the fact that the township's been working with people on particularly restaurants throughout the pandemic and being, I guess, willing to adapt to allow the outdoor eating areas and maybe not be quite as critical about signage and things during this time. So I thought that was nice.
I like your flexibility.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And to be honest, it has been received very well, both of those items in particular. So I would agree. I think that has been a nice thing we've been able to do.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Steve, I did have one question. I did not recall what the Vision Zero policy was.
Yeah, so that's a good one. That came out of the master plan. And so the idea was this Vision Zero idea is that there's no fatalities. So that sounds like a simple, goal, but, the idea was to sort of build on the making the, road designs and sidewalks inclusive for everybody. So you're not just designing for cars. So the idea out of the master plan was for the township to develop, a vision zero policy. So, that would be something then as decisions are made, that would be something that would guide, not just the planning commission, right, but the township board and the decision makers about, how we might want to make certain improvements in the township. So that was obviously one of the things on the list that didn't get worked on this year. So that was the idea behind Vision Zero.
Thank you.
One question.
Member Moxley, you had a question?
Yeah, question for Steve. What's the status on the pedestrian bridge over I-96 on Burton?
Yeah, so that's the next pathway project that we're working on. We are in the midst of design and, meeting with some of the neighbors right now. So that's the project that we got the large grant for. So in order to keep that money, we've got to, get that built. So we're still hoping to build that in 2021. It may take a little bit longer to finish things up. Without going into the details, it's been very challenging, I think, for the engineers because of some issues out there with soil conditions by the highway. But it's all, sort of on track and being worked on, and I fully expect to see a bridge out there next year.
Great, great. One other comment I'd like to make, if I may. I went out to Peace Park the other day. We tried to get over there and walk at Peace Park. The place is amazingly busy, even in the winter. And half the people have dogs. The parking lot was literally full when we were there, which is kind of neat to see.
Yeah, it's great.
Yep.
Yeah, we've seen, I don't know if I call it a huge uptick, but definitely with all of this, the parks have been busy.
Yeah, every parking space was full.
Wow, that's great. Any other questions regarding the annual report before we move to Article 9? All right, hearing none, we'll move to Article 9, Rules of Conduct.
Yeah, that's just
Steve, I'll let you review the rules.
Yeah, that's just your annual reminder. Obviously you guys go out and do a lot of site visits from time to time. So you might get stopped by somebody, an applicant or a neighbor who wants to, tell you what to do, or, so it's just that reminder that all of the communication really needs to happen at these planning commission meetings. Nobody, including you guys, shouldn't be discussing these cases together. All of the discussion, all of the communication should be happening in public, so everybody has an opportunity to hear what you have to say, so nobody thinks there's any, things happening behind the scenes. So it's just your sort of annual reminder. And as I've told you before, if you need to use it as a crutch to say, oh, geez, the township's got these rules, gives you guys maybe a polite way to tell them that you really can't, sit there and discuss these things with them. So just your annual reminder.
Okay. And with that, I think it's good to remind everybody that the site visits are important. It's good for all of us to go out and see the sites and make sure that we're there just to gather the facts. That's probably the most important thing to remember about the rules. But it's amazing how many different, I guess I should say, different things you can pick up on making a site visit. And I'm thankful that most of them haven't been too muddy lately, because that's been good. So, but does anybody have any questions about the rules? I read through them. It's a good idea to read through them every year, because it seems like every time I read them, I catch something and think, oh yeah, that's right. It's a good refresher. Article 10 is planning principles.
Yeah, and it kind of bleeds into the planning principles. That's a document we approved as a planning commission years ago. It's just some aspirational things to remember, as you kind of say, Scott, to read once a year, to just sort of remember those as you are making your decisions. Those are some principles that we adopted to sort of help guide us through those decision-making process. So it's just your reminder with that as well.
Absolutely. And with that, that brings us to the calendar for 2021. I'm assuming everybody saw that. No real big upsets there, I don't think. Everything looked pretty standard to me anyway. Anybody have any questions about the calendar? Steve, any comments on that or not really?
Yeah, not really. I think the only thing that's probably changed from last year was the township board now I think gives us President's Day off. And I think that actually was a Monday, a third Monday of the month. So we simply don't have meetings on that. So that was another one that probably bounced around. But you guys are used to a few of those dates, especially early in the year. We do bounce those around a little bit. But that's the only thing that's probably different from years past.
Okay.
Hey, Scott,
Yes, Member Johnson.
can I ask Steve, Steve, do you know where we're at in the authorization for virtual public meetings? Does that expire at a certain point down the road here?
Yeah, so the way it sits right now is January 15th is sort of the date that the manager is, that it's close to right now. So certainly as we get closer to that date, I think we'll be getting some more information whether or not we go in person. And obviously if we go in person, if there's rules again about, the limitations. So we'll be finding some more out in the next couple of weeks, but right now the answer to that is January 15th.
Okay.
Well, we've had a date like that off in the future a few times though now, and it's been extended, correct?
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Don't be surprised if it's extended.
Yeah.
darn it. I like doing the meetings in person much better.
My only concern about going in person is just if then there's limitations and it's limited to 10 or 20 people, the challenges that's going to pose about telling people they can't come in. And so there's certainly challenges if we do go in person and there's limitations. So I hear you, but we'll see what happens.
The township hasn't made any significant upgrades in technology yet to accommodate a hybrid version, if you will.
And we may have to, figure something like that out. I just hope we don't have, I hope we have some time to be able to figure something like that out. So everything is flexibility, as Ralph said earlier, is huge.
Okay. Any other business?
Yes, I have some, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Member Nornak.
Yeah, just really briefly, I was speaking with Supervisor Lesperance, and one of her big initiatives is greater transparency in the township. And one of the things as a planning commission, we often approve things and don't hear about it again. And from a follow-up, unless something really bad is happening, and I can think of one particular case. So we thought that perhaps it made sense to start asking about some of the larger cases and kind of what was followed up or something that was particularly interesting to a lot of the community members. So I talked to Steve about it last week, and kind of informally what we agreed to do is provide maybe a case number or a case that we want to hear about in the subsequent weeks. As an example, I asked Steve to give us an update on Round Hill tonight. So I will ask him at the end of my diatribe here to give us a quick update on what's going on with Round Hill. But in the future, we agreed that, at the end of the meeting, we'd give them a few if we want to hear about it, and Steve or Brian would prepare a brief summary in the follow-up meeting. So I hope this is helpful for everyone. I know that we have a number of community members and residents that do want to hear about this stuff. And again, often we approve it and don't think or hear about it again. So Steve, with that, would you mind giving us a quick update on what's going on with Round Hill? Are they complying? Has there been any action that we've had to take?
Sure. Yeah, not a problem. Well, and as I had told Chris, we did put a little blurb in the annual report. I don't know if you picked up on it. We did issue a citation for Round Hill. They actually had a $17,000 fine. I call that pretty significant. I don't know of anybody else who has issued a zoning violation for that kind of money, but
I did see that.
it has certainly been a long road with those guys. So without going into all of the detail, which I know you guys are aware of, all of the conditions that you put on the project, and remember, we put some deadlines on the project, and while they certainly took care of quite a few of those, probably the big item that they did not comply with was the deadline to get the retaining wall in by July 30th. So, and of course, there were sort of related items to, you know, drainage, swale, and landscaping that obviously they couldn't finish because the wall wasn't done. But essentially what we did was we formulated a fine based on the number of days that they were out of compliance, which I can't remember when they got into compliance, but it was, you know, fall by the time that wall was finished. We essentially had to park an inspector from the, remember we had consulted with a wall, you know, contractor, MTC, did a bunch of the inspections. So we had basically parked them out there to do the inspections as they progressed with the wall. And if you remember, we had protections for the township in there so that they were actually paying for that. So, you know, the general township wasn't paying for that. So we have all of the bonds still in place, with the exception of the remediation bond. If you remember, you guys discussed at length kind of the amount of that remediation for the damages that were caused by one of the neighbors. That was actually one of the first things to get addressed. So they had sort of worked that out rather quickly. The lawsuit with the township was dismissed rather quickly. I think that was back in July. So that was good news, but it certainly was a long process. There was some other, you know, minor issues. There were problems with the sidewalk out there. There was some continuing problems with the detention pond that didn't, you know, that got cleaned as you guys required, but then they had to maintain that. And before they could get a next building permit, they had to have it certified by the engineer that it was working properly. That took a bit of time. That took a little bit more time than what we thought it would take. So it has been a lot. I think my takeaway from all of it is I would certainly hope that one thing that we don't do is overreact to other developments and hit them with the same sort of regulations that these guys got. I believe that the regulations that we put on Round Hill were well deserved, but we have a lot of good developers that haven't had problems. And so I hope I don't want the township to overreact either and have too many regulations on for the rest of the projects that we see out there. But it was a long haul. We have issued one new building permit. So they actually did complete all of those steps in order to get one more building permit. That's all that's been issued at this point. I think they have been prepping the site for another one, which has a bunch of these things all have to be redone again before we can issue another building permit. So, I mean, it has been, that's been the most we have been out on the site ever, that I can ever recall. I mean, we have literally parked people out there. And as I say, I know I'm repeating myself now, but I want you guys to know that the costs incurred by the township are being recouped through, you know, the escrow policies that we have and some of the other escrows that we required for this developer. So if that's not enough of an update, I'm happy to go into more details if you want. But it's been a lot of work.
I mean, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr.
I have
Chair.
one
Anything
question.
else? I'll go with Member Johnson first. I think he beat you to the punch.
Right. I just wanted to thank Steve for the update and thank Chris for bringing that to Steve's attention. I think it's great for the commission to have some follow-up on projects that we've gone through and spent considerable discussion time on. Not only transparency, but also just follow back up with making sure we understand of how projects are being completed that we've had a hand in. So thank you.
And Member Moxley.
Yeah, I concur. I want to thank Steve for that update. I was thinking the same thing about, what's going on there. And I was going to ask if they had started any more homes, and sounds like they've got one more going on. One question I have for you, Steve, what's the latest on, there's talk about moving the offices over to a new facility, moving it out of Fire Station number 1.
Yeah, so it's happening as we speak. The move is kind of happening right now. There's still a bit of work to do, but I think what's going to happen is our building department, who's actually located offsite in Centennial Park, they'll be moving in there first. And then the rest of the administrative staff, I think we're looking at March to move the rest of the staff in there.
Right.
So that'll be happening as we speak. And then the fire department is still, I think, figuring out their final plans for what they're going to do with Station 1 as well. So all of those things are kind of happening right now.
Okay, that's good news.
Excellent. Member Slater.
I have a question. So speaking of follow-up, my question is about the follow-up on the fence issue on Sequoia Drive that we dealt with a month ago. I know we did give a 30-day period for that property owner to come into compliance, which would be this week, the 7th. So I was just curious about if any progress was on that, or any follow-up has been done or prepared to be done.
Yeah, the deadline that we gave them is this Thursday for that. And I haven't heard of any work done, but I just talked to the contractor today and he said he planned to be out there tomorrow. So it's a bit last minute, but it sounds like they'll wrap it up here pretty soon, and I'll be out in the next couple days to check everything.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for that update. I like hearing about past projects. I would say that in my short time on the Planning Commission, the top 3 things I think were the barbecue pit stop, the YMCA, and Round Hill were probably the 3 most attended meetings that I've ever been to, and so it's nice to hear about particularly the Round Hill, the kind of the aftermath, or what happened to the next chapter, so to speak, after we passed it on to the onto the township board or to wherever it went. So that's good to have that occasionally, and that was a good idea. Member Nordic, appreciate bringing that up. Any other business at this time, or any other comments?
Just one comment.
Yes, Member Moxley.
I want to thank Steve for the work he's done, especially in getting the YMCA here in Cascade Township. I go over there 3 days a week and swim, and I love it.
Okay, noted. Any other comments?
It's only 5 minutes away.
Nice.
That's the nice thing about Cascade. Everything's only 5 minutes away in Cascade.
Exactly.
Let
Okay.
me just tell you, Ralph, just because you said that, I have to give credit where credit is due. We can also thank former member Jack Lewis, who recently passed away, had a big hand in bringing the YMCA to Cascade Township. So thank you for saying that, but credit where credit is due. Jack gets a attaboy on that project too.
Appreciate that.
I have a feeling his
One
name
other
could-
comment.
Wow.
If
Yes,
y'all-
Member.
The 2 busiest businesses in town are right now,
No.
the hardware store and the liquor store.
Yeah.
True.
All right. Well, I could say I've been to the hardware store a lot. I haven't been to the other one, but I've been to the hardware store.
Neither have I.
All right. Anybody else? I'm working hard here to get to Article 13. Member Moxley, you have anything else?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Member Rappin moves.
Thank you, Member Rappin. Do we have support? I think I heard somebody else say, was that Member Deering?
Member
I think-
Kreider, I'll support.
Oh, okay. Member Gator. All right. Sorry. Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening, and we'll see you next time, hopefully.
Before we go, Member Deering, is it your birthday?
It is.
Happy birthday.
Oh,
Happy
Happy
birthday.
happy birthday, Member Deering.
Thank
Nice
Give
one,
us a happy
Cassie.
birthday, or
That's good.
we should have had a cake brought to your house via shipped, or
Oh,
something.
man.
All right. Well, we'll have to catch you when we're in person, I guess. But
All right.
That's awesome.
happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Aye.
Night.
Thanks.
Cassie? Thank you for bringing that up at the end because I had completely forgotten.
No problem. I almost did too. And then I heard you say adjournment and I was like, oh no, wait a minute. So,
No, you did. I was going to bring it up in comments and it slipped my mind. So,
well, we got a little
Thank
carried away. So,
and as always, you do a great job and it's very much appreciated. And
Thank you.
So thank you. I think you, a lot of people say, oh, you're doing a good job chairing the planning commission. I'm like, that's all behind the scenes. She's the one running the meeting, really. So I'm just talking and I'm really good at talking too much. So you're doing a good job. Thank you.
well, thank you.
Have a good
See
night.
you soon. You too.
Yep.
Bye.